Would you be willing to die for the Palestinians to stop their extermination, to stand against your government's complicity and its repression of your speech and protest? 8 British citizens may die in prison for just that in the coming days and weeks because their government is more committed to protecting Israel's right to exterminate Palestinians than it is to safeguarding the welfare of its own people.
Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
I'm guessing you may not have heard about the Palestine Action hunger strikes because they're being effectively buried, despite the fact that this is one of the most important stories unfolding right now, both in terms of what's happening to speech and protest in Western Europe and the Americas, and in the context of Israel's genocide of the Palestinians.
To make it abundantly clear that this is not about dying. I love life, and my love for life, for people, is the reason why I've been incarcerated for 349 days now.
Let's start with the current situation. 29 PAL Action affiliated activists are being detained without conviction, accused of taking part in actions against Elbit Systems, UK facilities, and a Royal Air Force base. 8 are now on hunger strike in 5 different prisons. 2 have gone 46 days without food, and 5 have required hospitalization. Their demands include immediate bail, the right to a fair trial, the removal of Palestine Action as a quote-unquote terrorist group, and for all Elbit sites to be shut down. They have also asked for David Lammy, the Minister of Justice, to meet with their lawyers, but Lammy has refused to even acknowledge their existence.
But what is mostly concerning is that his heart is giving in and his pulse is slowing down. And at the moment, he is losing half a kg every day.
It cannot be overstated how grim their conditions are. Their health is deteriorating day by day, and there is still no effort to listen to them in sight from both their government and the majority of the mainstream news media.
It's very strange that in the 47 days of the hunger strike, most of the mainstream media in Britain have completely ignored the issue, refused to report it in any way, comment on it in any way.
Violating standard protocol, both the prisons and hospitals have also blocked their families from contacting them. And there are even instances of the prisons obstructing treatment of deteriorating political prisoners. Palestine Action was founded in 2020 to directly confront the UK complicity in the occupation, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. The group has focused its actions on British sites linked to Israel's largest weapons manufacturer, Elbit Systems, and also carried out actions at the Royal Air Force Base at Brize Norton.
Elbit Systems is complicit for death and murder in Palestine. We cannot stop fighting, okay? Please join Palestine Action. Please let Palestinians know we stand in solidarity.
Actions against Israeli weapons manufacturer Elbit Systems is pretty self-explanatory. But why the Royal Air Force?
If you look at where Israel gets its weapons from, the overwhelming majority of it is the United States, then it's Germany, which is about 20%, and then we're kind of part of the rest, which is maybe like 10%, but we're not a big player in terms of the weapons. What we are maybe the major player in is intelligence.
Using its base in Cyprus, the Royal Air Force has carried out hundreds of surveillance and support missions over and around Gaza, as well as military transport flights to Israel. But the UK government has refused to fully disclose how the intelligence gathered was used or what materials were transported to Israel, which is out of the norm. Even if framed as unarmed or humanitarian, this level of intelligence and logistical support directly implicates the United Kingdom in enabling Israel's campaign of genocide against the Palestinians. But UK complicity hasn't stopped at housing supply chains for Israeli weapons or using their air force for spying on Palestinians and making military shipments or even official statements reaffirming Israel's right to exterminate an entire nation. Some of the fiercest repression of anti-genocide protests and speech has happened in the United Kingdom, and it culminated with the proscribing of PAL Action as a banned group under the Terrorist Act. In other words, a group that does not harm people, that protests and disrupts supply chains of weaponry being used to enact a genocide, is now grouped in with organizations like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the far-right group National Action, because it broke into a military airfield and spray painted 2 military aircraft. Under international legal standards, that's protest. But the UK's prescription of PAL Action as a terrorist group explicitly now labels protest as terrorism, which is a direct threat to fundamental civil liberties. Since the prescription of PAL Action as a terrorist group, UK police have arrested almost 2,000 people for peacefully protesting in support of PAL Action and against the UK ban. Support that under the Terrorism Act could land those who've been arrested a maximum sentence of 14 years in prison. So yeah, it's grim. It's very, very grim. But this political moment can't be seen in a vacuum because the United Kingdom has been here before. In 1981, in the midst of the Irish Troubles, imprisoned Irish Republican activists led by Bobby Sands began a hunger strike to protest the British government's revocation of their status as political prisoners. Sands became a hero, even being elected to the British Parliament while he was imprisoned. But the British government, led by Margaret Thatcher, refused to negotiate in any way, and that led to 10 political prisoners dying over 7 months because of starvation. The political prisoners, including Sands, died after between 46 and 73 days without food. Some of the PAL Action hunger strikers are hitting almost 50 days with, again, no acknowledgement or movement from the British government, with little mass mobilization globally in solidarity because of how successfully this story has been buried. The 1981 Irish hunger strike had a huge impact. It not only dismantled the British government's narrative about Ireland and the Irish, but it also emboldened Irish nationalism, and it led to the IRA's political win, Sinn Féin, to becoming a force in electoral politics. Because that's the thing with the hunger strike. It is an extreme political act that shows a slow death, that is visible and deliberate, and it forces the state to decide over weeks whether it will let people live or die. The PAL Action political prisoners are in a political moment that could be an inflection point for this genocide, for protest, for speech, but only if we do something. They shouldn't have to die for us to move, for us to show our solidarity. But here they are, on the brink of death, because they want an end to the extermination of an entire nation. So what are we willing to do?
We are prepared to push to the very end for these rights. Any harm we sustain lies at the door of the government. Please act.